Welcome to the Joy Work Show, the podcast that goes beyond the surface of business right to the heart, to explore the real joy and the stories behind success, not just the moments of celebration, but the challenges that pave the way for them. Hiya, I'm Diane, and on this podcast, we know that joy isn't just about the good times. Often, the greatest joy comes right after the greatest challenge. And today, my conversation is with the brilliant Nicky, a brand and graphic designer who took an unconventional path into the world of design. After starting out in the translation industry and a love of linguistics, she made the leap into branding. And now she's helping businesses stand out with strategic and stunning visuals. In this episode, we dive into what it really takes to build a business while juggling family life, why continuous learning is the key to staying ahead, and quite often the difference between success and not, and how motherhood can completely shift your entrepreneurial mindset. Nicky also shares her thoughts on the power of branding, the role of AI in design, and why resilience and positivity are everything in business. If you're a business owner trying to find your own brand identity or just need a boost of inspiration, then this is the episode for you. But as always, it's so much better to hear from the guests themselves. So let's go. Hi, Nicky, and welcome to the Joy Work Show. I'm so delighted to have you with me today. We know each other fairly well. We've been in each other's worlds for quite some time now, 18 months or so, or maybe a little bit long. So I can't wait, and I know how great this conversation is going to be. But for everybody else who is listening, who are you? What do you do? And how did you get here?
Okay, so yes, hi everybody. I'm Nicky, as Diane said. I'm a brand and graphic designer working under the Brand Design Boutique, and also a wedding stationer, but primarily brand and graphic design now. So how I got here. I'm originally a trained linguist, so I did study languages at university, and my first jobs were in the translation industry, primarily proofreading, project management, and that sort of thing, which I did for quite a few years, probably 10, 15 years after I left university. Left to go on maternity leave, have my sort of two children, and I did go back to the translation work for a little bit, but my job role had changed slightly. It wasn't quite the same, and sort of trying to juggle childcare and paying two lots of childcare and, having a part-time wage just wasn't brilliant, wasn't working out that great. I was on maternity leave for my second child, daughter. Had one of my sister-in-law had a friend who was getting married, and she happened to see the place card that I'd made for our wedding, and just really liked it. It was quite unusual. It's like a skeleton leaf with sort of a name and then raffia tied around the end. So it's quite unusual, not the sort of norm. And just fell in love with it and said, "Oh, would she be able to do some for my wedding?" So I was on maternity leave, had time to do it while my daughter was sleeping. So I said, "Yeah, no problem." So started there, and then she said, "Oh, could you do me some invites to match?" I was like, "Oh, okay." I've always had a creative side. I did art A-level, so I've always sort of been quite arty and creative. That's how it started, really, just from a friend of my sister-in-law asking me to do these things, and then I did, like I said, I did do, and then sort of friend of a friend. She was getting married and heard that I'd done it, so did it for her. But then I did go back to my translation job just for a little while. But like I said, the job probably changed slightly. It just wasn't quite what I was looking for. So decided then that this isn't working. I need to do something I enjoy, firstly, and that will work around the childcare issue. So that's when it all changed. Probably, 15 years ago now, I guess, 14, 15 years ago was when I set up just the wedding stationery side of it initially. And back then, I hadn't done any sort of graphic design work at all. So it was all hand embellished stuff. So, like the ribbons and diamantes, and very pretty, but very laborious, very time consuming to make. Like a batch of 50 would take forever. I do it in like a conveyor belt system. So I do all the ribbon first, then all the diamantes. But it was just, I enjoyed it. But then sort of trying to again, I'd never run a business before. So looking at the business side of it and the figures and how long I was spending on each project or each client.
How could you scale that to make it a profitable business for you?
To make sure I was actually earning from it and not, losing. Or my hourly rate was down at something like £2 an hour or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
I thought, hang on, something needs to change here. This is, even though I enjoy it, it's not a business. It's like a hobby
Mm-hmm.
that pays a little bit. So yeah, so that's when I looked into then graphic design courses, so that would enable me to produce printed designs. Once you've designed it once, obviously, and then run it off, print, that's so much more profitable and time beneficial, I suppose, compared to the handmade stuff. And I think initially I was doing that, but then I was also adding some handmade elements to it, like I was still adding diamantes, just to have that sort of finishing touch to it. But yeah, so it got to a point where after I'd done these courses, I still did offer the handmade ones, but I did put quite a hefty premium on those because I realised then that's what people are paying for. It's the time that goes into it. So yeah, you sort of learn as you go along, I suppose, don't you, with these?
I think it's really fascinating because I think a lot of product businesses start, especially in the online entrepreneurial space, from this kind of, there's so many people that have a craft specialty or an expertise in something, and it's born out of something that they love. It's not born out of, I am going to do this to become rich. It is born out of something that they absolutely love. I think for the product businesses that are successful, and I see a lot of product businesses having this difficulty, is almost right. I can take the thing that I love, but if this is going to be more than just something I love to do as an expensive hobby, or perhaps I sell it to pay for the next thing that I do, if it's going to actually become a profitable business, that you almost have to detach yourself a little and think like,
Yeah.
how is this going to, like you said, it was your time, and whilst you could still offer that embellishment, that personalization, that little bit extra, there was a premium to that because you then understood
Yeah.
your worth, your time, your expertise, and your kind of uniqueness. But that doesn't mean that any of that uniqueness is lost, that you've now found a better process to sell your products en masse and profitable
Yeah, so I could
for you.
I could still offer that, the handmade, bespoke, but it comes at a cost. Obviously, it's only when you've been in business. It probably took me 2 or 3 years, maybe, of me doing this, just part time, obviously around children, to suddenly realise, hang on, this isn't working the best way. But how can I still enjoy it, but be more profitable and run it as a proper business? So
Yeah.
you learn, you live and learn these things.
Because there must have been times where people were coming to you and you were like, I can't do any more weddings, or I can't do any more of when you were doing just the handmade stuff, because there physically wasn't enough hours in the day and enough hands
Exactly.
to actually make those things. So if you can offer different services, then that's when you can start having more clients, building the business and scaling that way.
And I then realised that I need to I'll cater my services to different clients as well. There are those that have got the budget for the bespoke handmade, but those that don't have that budget. So the graphic design led ones were a lot more economical for the client as well, and more profitable for me. So it just then meant I could cater for a whole range of people, not just those that could. Once I realised I need to put my prices up, I was then eliminating those that can't afford that. So it worked both ways, really. It helped me, but it helped people that want my services as well. So that's how it sort of evolved. And the graphic design, me doing these graphic design courses and being able to produce the graphic design stationery, then I suddenly thought, now I've got these skills, I can use these in another way. I can help businesses that need graphic design services. So it's just, that's how it's evolved, from me sort of, hand making things on a little desk in my bedroom or, spare room. Now running a business that can cater for different clients and also bring me sort of different, I suppose, revenue streams from different areas. So I've still got the wedding stationery business. I don't do quite as much now as I used to, but it's mainly branding and graphic design for business. But I still do that. Still got my website up and running. I do a little bit of work as like a white label wedding stationer for other wedding stationers when they're busy. It's just really, I suppose, opened my eyes as to how you can evolve as a business. Just through, just you gain skills as you go along, don't you? Because I've always worked in a corporate role. I've never run my own business before, but you do. And I've done so many courses on business as well, not just on the design side of it, but how to run a business. And obviously your group is invaluable for me at the minute.
Thank you very much.
You do. You need, and I love learning anyway. I love always, I like to have some sort of course going on in the background, or, whether it's design related or business related.
I think there's so many people that do, and I think that the fact is, what always stands out to me, and from doing this podcast and speaking to all different types of business owners, building all different types of businesses, and the million and wild ways that people get in to running their own business and the reasons do. And of course, like you, there has been a common theme that having children is definitely up there as a catalyst for making a change. But what stands out to me is that, yes, there has to be that catalyst. There has been a few, but it hasn't been children. It's been about realizing, about building a life.
Mm.
And I think that's where definitely my children came into it, because I could have very easily gone back to my career, earned really well, and had an element of flexibility, but not the type of life that I want. And I think when we sat down and had the conversations, it was about the life that we were wanting to build. And yes, the logistics, and like you say, it just, you just get to the point like this isn't working. Nobody's winning here. But the bigger vision, I suppose, and the bigger idea for us was like, this isn't the life that we want to live, and ultimately the big life that we want, and whatever success in that big life looks like to people. So there's been lots of conversations around that on the podcast so far, and no doubt there'll be many, many, many to come. But the standout thing for me is not just the catalyst to it, but it's the difference between the people who do the business and try and do the things, and the difference to people who don't. And also, it's ultimately a choice. Lots of people love being part of big corporations and big companies and love being part of that community and team. And certainly people who go into teaching and nursing and that type of thing, it's a vocation and it's something they truly, truly believe in, being in that sector. But when I speak to people, and I love hearing that it's a love of something, it's that creativeness in them that then spurs them on to do something else, and it's that love of learning. But do you think there's something like, there's lots of people who are creative, but what do you think it is the entrepreneurial spirit almost that's like, I'm going to turn this into a business? But to be able to do this, what do you think it was in you that thought, this isn't sustainable, I can't keep doing this, so I'm going to learn this? And do you think it was just that love of learning and knowledge and growing?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I've always been like that. I know when I was in my translation job, I had a languages degree, but I didn't have a translation degree. But that was, I would love being a translator. I knew that I had to do further, but I didn't want to do a master's. I just wanted to start earning. So when I was in my translation job, I actually, after a few years, decided to asked my employer if he was happy for me to take a day off a week so that I could study a translation course, or, an extra degree, an extra qualification, which they were. So I started to do that, and that's when I fell pregnant. So then that stopped. So I only did it for a few months, and then I got pregnant, and so that all stopped. And even before that, I did an evening course for proofreading. So, and that really helped me in my job, because I did a lot of proofreading in my job. But I've always, and even before that, I loved languages. So, and I'd done French, German, and Spanish at uni, but just missed speaking the language. So I went to college to do a night course just on spoken conversational French. I've always wanted to have something in the background.
Just up leveling yourself.
I think so, yes. And I suppose with languages, just making sure, if you don't use them, you're going to forget them essentially, or completely, but you get rusty. Yeah, just making sure that I kept that level up. So I've always had, I suppose, that drive to better myself, or to learn more, which I guess definitely helps when you're running a business, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, I suppose I'd never really thought about it until I had the children. So I don't know, if I hadn't had the children, would I have eventually gone on to do it? I'm not sure.
Snap.
Yeah.
Exactly that. Because people say to me quite often, but you've always been entrepreneurial, you've always been business minded. And obviously I had a job that was and even though it was the private sector, it was probably one of the most kind of entrepreneurial spaces of the private sector. But it still took me having my children to actually make the leap and actually do it. So I can't sit here and say that I would have done it anyway. Otherwise, it was, I was getting older and all of that. None of that kind of spurred me on. And it was definitely was having the children. It was so I went back in between the two babies, but I only went back for a very short period of time.
Yeah.
And it was just when I had the second, I was like, this isn't going to work for kind of everything, the type of mum I wanted to be, the type of person I wanted to be, the type of life we wanted to live. And so it was that kind of, and it felt very now or never, because it felt if I went back, that's what I would then be doing. Because how do you, once you get into that childcare and all of that, how do you then stop
Yeah.
earning that to come back. So it felt like it would take another big leap
Yes.
before I would have that opportunity window as such. So yeah, but it's just, it always interests me. Like, there's always these catalysts, and I hear that, that childcare and having children is quite often it, but there's a big difference between the people that jump and do it and then the people who
Yeah.
are like, no, I just need to stay with this stability, and
Yeah,
because
definitely.
it's a scary thing to do.
Oh, it is. Yeah, definitely. I think I'd always had that. I mean, the idea of me doing the translation qualification at the same time as working in the sort of project management translation role was so that eventually my idea was to become a freelance translator. I always loved the idea of working for myself, not working.
Yeah.
Even at that point, I'd probably been working for someone for about 10 years or so, but I just loved the idea of being my own boss and working for myself. I think
Mhm.
that's always been there. Obviously, it's not translation I've gone into, but I'm now working for myself, which
Yeah.
they're just in a different route, I suppose.
I think for me as well, I think I always had that, but when I look back, I had no idea what it could look like or what it would look like. And I couldn't, I think perhaps the reason I'd never jumped before was because I didn't really have a clue about how to go about it. And it wasn't till kind of push came to shove, I suppose, that it was like, I now need to figure this out. And my second maternity leave was very different from my first. And that's what I spent my time doing. I spent my time finding out how to set up a business, what I could set up a business about, what was I good at, what did I want, and also what did I want to do. It wasn't just a couple of things. I was like, well, I can do that. Do I really want? I'm as well staying where I am if that's what I'm going to do, and really kind of honing in on what could it look like. But I had to go and learn, and I had no idea about the online space, so I had to go and find people who had kind of walked that path and done that thing before, because I knew that the online space, I knew it was booming and I could see all these things beginning to happen, but I didn't really, I mean, I wasn't even on Facebook before I launched my business, so it was a big jump. I was on Instagram. I was on Instagram. I was very much there, but I hadn't really shown my face or anything up to this point. And but I had to go and learn, and it's that learning, because I was like, I can't just say I'm leaving my career and I'm starting a business without knowing and understanding. So I spent the nap times, the night times, anytime I could,
Yeah.
reading, learning, doing all the free things at first, and then I invested in some courses and some coaches and things to and that's when I was like, actually, I can now see
Yes.
how I can make this work, because I knew it had to be the online space, because the whole point of not going back to my job was driving places and not being available to do the nursery runs and the pickups and all the other bit. I knew I wanted my children in childcare for some of the week, but not all of the week. So I knew I wanted them home with me some of the days. And the only way I could see doing that was, one, doing my own business, and two, having it as flexible as possible, which to me was like, this is what the online space can give you, because I didn't need to be in a bricks and mortar place. I could work around the hours that I could work around. And sometimes that means evening work because I'm with the children during the day. And sometimes that means brilliant, busy, busy days, wonderful things happening. But I then am with the children, pick them up, do the dinner, do the bath time, do the bedtime, and all of those things. And it's that flexibility that I felt the online space gave to me. But the learning and the education was a huge part of it. And it never stops. Like you say, there's always something burning in the background.
Yes.
And I would never stop learning. Even the things that I know that I know,
Mm-hmm.
I would never stop learning those things either.
No, there'll always be something to improve
There's
on,
always something,
or the technology.
new perspective.
Now I'm potentially now looking into how AI works with graphic design, which I'd never even thought. There are all these designers talking now about how you can use AI in your business. Yeah, it's just always evolving, isn't it? Always changing.
I know, and it's such an interesting conversation with AI, because there's probably a point that you can look back over the last 2 years, you're probably like, nope, I'd never use AI, it's not for me, blah blah blah. But it's now inevitable. So we as business owners, we're allowed to change our opinions,
Yeah,
and because you then learn new things, and it can be adapted and it can be used, and what it does help with. And it's the same as everything else. There's good and there's bad, to it. And as much as I find it a very scary prospect when you listen to what some things can be done, it is inevitable
yeah,
that
it's going to go that way.
it is going to become part of our everyday.
Yeah, definitely. So it's something probably my next learning phase will be all about AI and graphic design.
AI.
It can help you, and which bits to use, which bits not to use. So yeah.
Mhm.
it is a huge, the way things are going, and it's evolving quickly as well. It's something you've got to be mindful of. Like you can't just stick in one place. You've got to move with the times, I suppose, haven't you, in technology?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you've said that it's the branding work that you really love now, and that's kind of
Yeah.
your focus. You're keeping your hand in the wedding stationery, which I think is a very, very smart move.
Yeah.
People are always going to get married, have babies, and unfortunately also funeral homes will also do very well too. So there's always those things that are going to happen. So that's a very shrewd move. So, but what was it that, why did you want to get into that? What was it you loved about that?
I think, well, it started because I was obviously in the wedding industry and coming into contact with lots of wedding businesses through like wedding fairs and different events I'd done, like styled photo shoots. You come into contact with lots of other wedding businesses. And again, that started, with one or two of them just needing a bit of help with a logo here and there. And it just started gradually. And then I think the feedback I got from them and how they felt it had really, really helped their business. I just realised that, with the wedding station, obviously I'm helping couples for one day. I got, great satisfaction out of that. It was really, really great. But the fact that I'm helping a business, which could be helping them for years and years to come, and actually, enable them to invest themselves and improve their income, get more income, it's just that satisfaction and just the feedback and how much confidence it gives them as well, to post again, because they've maybe been shying away from posting because they hate their branding and just not happy with it. But once they've got that new brand identity, and it can just have a massive difference on how they are showing up and how confident they feel in posting. So I get probably more satisfaction, I think, of working. It's a different type of satisfaction, I think. But you get that such a nice feeling when I get the feedback from them afterwards and how it's improved their business and the confidence they've got around it.
I guess it's a different type of creativity as well.
Yeah.
Like,
it is.
because we've spoke about branding a lot, and I think we're both on very much the same page that branding is crucial, so important, but people need to have their foundations right. Like they need to know their why and their vision and how they want their business to make people feel and those types of things. And then the branding is almost, the letter seal, the wax stamp on that to kind of, because that's how you want the world to see you. So if you want people to feel empowered, or if you want people to feel safe, or if you want people to feel creative or fun or energetic or those types of things. And I think people misunderstand branding. Like, I think when people launch a business, they rush out and they're like, I need a desk, I need a fancy computer, I need a company name, I need a business card, and I need my branding. And actually, yes, you need something because you need to put something up. But actually, at that point, you need to kind of really understand your why on a really kind of deep level, and your vision and your values, because then when they come to you, they're ready for that, and is like, do you think of that readiness of the businesses? Is that like when you think of your dream client, that's the person that comes to you and knows kind of who they are and who their customer is?
Exactly, because as part of the initial work that I do when we're sort of creating a brand identity, there's a lot of background work that goes into who their ideal client is, their sort of mission and that sort of thing. And I always recommend, if they come into me as a brand new business, I don't recommend that they go for my big full-on package, because they don't know the direction potentially that the business is going to go. Things may evolve, may change, so they don't want to be spending a lot of money on a final brand identity if things may change, or the particular target market may change. So have sort of smaller packages that will deal with or cater for people that are just very new in business. So it is handy if they've done that work themselves. That's great, but I can do that with them. We can go through sort of the why behind the business, the mission and their values, until I initially create two different sort of style boards from that. So once we've got all that information and collated it, and then I still want the client to have some sort of control over the final identity and how it's going to look, because obviously it's their business, their baby. They've got to fall in love with it as well, not just their ideal clients falling in love with it. So I go away and put together these initial style boards, and then we sort of take it from there. We can then make tweaks potentially to have a hybrid version of the style boards until we come up with a final, I guess it's like a creative direction. Before I even start any sort of logo work or designing, there's quite a lot of work that goes behind the scenes before we sort of start putting pen to paper, as it were. So people come to me at different stages in their business, so it depends where they are in the business as to which direction to go and how I can help them, really.
Yeah, it's really good to know that you've got those different levels, because like I say, I think so many business owners, like, they decide on Thursday, that's me, I'm launching my business. And then on Friday, they're like, I need a logo. And you're like, no, you need to kind of like step back a little bit and think about, who you're going to be serving and what you want it to do. And ultimately, over the first couple of years, your logos and things will change
Yeah,
a lot.
I did.
You
My wedding stationery business, when I look back at my initial, this was before I'd done any sort of, I suppose, graphic design. This was just like the handmade stuff I was doing. I didn't really know, I'd put myself together a logo, but looking back at them now, it's like horrendous. Yeah, I don't enjoy looking at them at all. But yeah, obviously I've
those things are rite of passage. You want to be able to kind of look back and things. I have no doubt, podcast isn't old enough yet, but I have no doubt in a year's time I'll look back to those first few I've recorded and think, well, I remember I said to somebody, who I'm in her world, and she's got a podcast, and I said to her, "Oh, I've been listening to your podcast right from the start," and she went, "Please don't tell me that." Like, she's on like over 300 episodes now, but she's like, please don't tell me you've gone all the way back." She was like, "I can't remove them because it's this story, but it's that like cringe factor of like looking back on what you've done." It's the same when we post on Instagram. It's the same, but it's the journey of our businesses, and it's kind of really important that we have those rites of passage, because it's only by going through those things that you'll get the clarity and you'll get ultimately to the brand identity that you really want. Because also you want to test things out with your audience and your customers and your clients, because
yeah.
you might think that the color, obviously I use the color pink quite a lot, and you might think the color pink means this, but actually then you find out to 80% of your audience it means something else, and you're like, all right, okay, I don't really want to be using that color anymore. That's not putting across the message I want it to put across. So it's all of those things, like you say, when you're learning and growing and developing, that it's really, really important. But I think, like you say, brand, when you finally get to that point in your business that you can get somebody to do it for you professionally, it is so important. And Canva's brilliant, and I tell anybody to go and play in Canva and do what you need to do to get your business going. And I think there's also Adobe is doing a lot of things now that people can get in on grassroots on that and go and do and get yourself out there. But eventually, you need
Yeah,
to bring the
it is.
professionals in.
It's great, and I was very against Canva at first because I can obviously use the Adobe Illustrator, which I use primarily, and was never ever going to venture onto Canva. But I have to now when I create social media templates for clients, because then they can then use them to edit them. If I'd have created them with Illustrator, which was my go-to and was much easier for me at the time, they can't do anything with it because they generally don't have Adobe Illustrator. Yeah, so I use Canva a lot now for creating social media templates, and it's brilliant for non-designers or those that haven't got the software, the end software, and it's great. I mean, there are even AI elements of Canva as well, aren't they? We can just tell it to design something, and it'll just create it for you.
Yeah, just create it for. And it is, and I think it's really important that people have access to these things.
Yeah.
But I was really naive about brand work. Still, when I started my business, because I was in the kind of marketing departments and areas of the companies that I worked for, I was there when they worked with agencies to create like their logos and their brochures and things like that, the tangible products as well as websites and things. But I wasn't so involved that I fully understood everything that went. And it wasn't until I was doing my own business and people were like, well, yeah, you'll need a brand eventually and somebody to do it for you and a designer to do it for you, because you need certain types of files. And if you're going to be going and doing a presentation, you want to make sure that it's not going to get pixelated when it goes up behind you. And if you want a banner or one of the boards that I can't remember what you call them.
The roller banner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want one of them, so terms as well. So it's all of those things that you don't think about. You think, well, I've done it in Canva. I like how it looks. Why do I need anything else? When actually, and then when you
scaling up to a huge format, then
it just goes horribly wrong, and then before you know it, you've lost your life in weeks trying to make it work.
Yeah.
When actually you get to that point in your business when you do need those things, you do need brochures, you do need a website that's just that little bit slicker in the images. You see so often people saying, but I can build my own website and it looks okay, but I can't get this image to work. Well, the reason you can't get it to work is it's not in the right format. It's not the right, so it is then bringing in the experts to do it. And I think it's that slickness that people want within their business, but it's bringing it in at the right time. But like you say, you have different packages to help people, because I think because I'm quite technical and I can do things that when I first started, I was like, right, I can do it myself. That's fine. And I'll get the brand in when it's the right time for me to invest in the business at that point. But there's some people out there that the technology is just not their forte. They can't get their heads around it. It's not, and they need to spend time in their business being the experts at what they do, not learning something that isn't going to bring them profit
No, exactly.
into their business and income into their business. So it's so good to hear that there's kind of those different
Yeah.
levels for people to, because you just hear so often people like Canva, I can't even work it out and it never does this and it doesn't that. And that's me like, no, good investment for you would be to go and,
Exactly.
you know,
You end up spending hours trying to create something, whether you might as well have paid someone to do it for you. The amount time you're not spending on your business, but you're spending trying to figure it out.
it is also the best procrastination tool in the world for anybody because it's that, well, I was working. Well, no, were you though? Like, did you really need to do the time of all of those things? Or you just, like, I very much have to get in and out if I use it for social media posts. I can't,
You can spend
because you can just get lost in making things pretty.
just tweak
And
this, tweak
that's,
that.
yeah, and it's not going to pay the bills.
No,
And also, it's not going to give you the impact in your business that you want it to have. You need to use it for what it's for, get in, get out, get it posted, and move on with the things that actually moves the needle within your business. So if there was top tips that you could give people when it comes to their branding, what would it be?
the main thing is your ideal client. Yeah, you need to know exactly who you're appealing to. So that groundwork, that behind the scenes work that you've talked about and that you do so brilliantly as well, don't you, with your clients, is
Yeah.
something that is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just choose colours that you like. Like I say, they may not. You may love red, but that's not going to potentially appeal to your ideal client. So just doing that groundwork if you can. If you're not strong in that sort of area or you don't know, then maybe invest in a little bit. I know. Encourage you to spend masses, but if you're a very very brand new business, just because, like we said, you may evolve. But I think it can. That initial impression to me is huge. So you don't want to get it wrong, really. So if you can afford just a little bit, like say sort of lower end packages are, I think, fairly affordable and semi-custom range, so they get to choose from different fonts, color palettes and icons, and then I put their branding together, which is much more economical, but it still gives them a professional finish. So I'm a huge believer of those first impressions count. So even though you think, oh, I've not got the money, I can't afford branding at the minute, I'm not bringing anything in, I really think it can have a massive effect if you can and put a little bit just to get you sort of foot on.
Well, I think if you can do anything that sets out your stall the way you want to from the word go,
Yeah.
I think is really, really important. And if you cannot do it quickly and easily yourself,
Yeah.
then it's definitely worth it because it will give you the confidence to show up at, like you say, to show up in the way that you want to show up to, which is important whether you're a bricks and mortar business, whether you're going to in-person networking or online networking or in the online space. And like you say, it can just be a small investment to kind of dip the toe in the water, get you started, and knowing that you can then come back. And it's also useful to have a relationship with somebody like yourself because there'll be so many questions that come up throughout when you're thinking about your branding and when is the time to really get that slick makeover, that glow up, we all need a glow up every now and again, and our brand does too, and to have that conversation. And it's even important with me having like my own clients as me, Diane, but also the Joy Work Club and the Joy Work Show podcast and things. And I try and keep a synergy between them all because ultimately it's a personal brand, but then the Joy Work Club's becoming a brand on its own. But it's important to have that synergy. But when you're doing those things, you need to think about your brand again and making sure that it aligns. When I launched the podcast, I spent days going back to my mission, my vision, my values, my dream client, because I didn't just want to launch a podcast to say that I had a podcast. I wanted it. What was it going to bring? What value was it going to bring to the business? What did I want out of it? What did I think it was going to bring me, and where was the income going to come from, and what impact was it going to have? And I had to make sure it was all aligned because I did get very excited to just I'm going to do my podcast, that's it, I'll run and do it. And I was like, well, hang on a minute, no, what's it going to do, what's it going to bring, what is your audience that you're creating going to gain from this, and it's really, and that is part of your branding, because your branding is, especially when you're building a personal brand, it's you, the way you look, the way you show up, the colors you use, the things that you have, and it's really, really important to think about, and it's so important having somebody in your corner when you're doing those things.
I think if you get it right, your branding, your brand identity, it can almost do a lot of the heavy lifting for you when it comes to your marketing, because it's attracting from the get-go. If people see something that resonates with them, they'll be drawn to it, and that's when they'll start to hear your message and your story and what you've got to offer them, the services you offer. So it's even though you think you may not have the budget for it, I think it's really worth thinking of it fairly early on, even if it's not the full-on brand identity, but so invest in something just to get you going. And like I say, that will do the heavy lifting for you to attract the right people. That's what
absolutely
the day you need those people coming to you that you can help. You've got the services that they need or products that they need. It's probably top tip number one, I guess. To invest a little.
Amazing. And also, it's just nice. Sometimes it's just really good that something looks really nice. It's just that thing of just having something that looks really good, that's your name, whether it's your name or your business name. I know branding comes with a lot of pride.
Yeah.
And I think when people can first invest in getting their branding done, like all singing, all dancing, I think it's that you can almost, like, the shoulders come down, they stand a little bit differently, and they're like, that's mine, that's my thing, I've created that, and it's...
Yeah, it gives them confidence as well.
Yeah. It's a real pride thing. And that's why I think that you love it, and the satisfaction you get.
The confidence I give people. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, as you know, I ask 3 questions of people to prepare before they come on the podcast, all round joy, with it being the Joy Work Show. So the first thing that I ask is the Joy Spotlight, a favourite thing that has shaped your life, business, or work.
Yeah, well, this might seem a strange answer, but for me, it's actually lockdown, March 2020, which is a very strange answer. But it's that's when I basically took up exercise. I've never really done much before that. I dabbled going to the gym here and there, but not massively. But obviously with lockdown, you probably remember the PE with Joe in the mornings, so the kids off school or working from homeschooling, 5 mornings a week. He was doing 9 o'clock. And I said, girls at the time were probably, 14 and 11, I think. This would be great, get them up and started for the day. So we started day one. Well, to be fair, my 14-year-old didn't start day one. She just refused point blank. But my 11-year-old did. I think she did 1, maybe 2 mornings. Then she, had enough of this. I stuck it out for the whole of lockdown, 5 mornings a week, just me on my own, no kids. I just the energy I got from it and the way it made the rest of the day, having to homeschool. I mean, they were a bit older. It wasn't too hard, I suppose. So they weren't little, but having them at home and me working time and just, having that in the morning for me and whatever it was, 20 minutes. I just fell in love with it. I'm a massive believer of healthy body, healthy mind. So that helped hugely with my business as well, not just physically. It just helped me mentally to manage everything that was going on, because it was a hard time for everybody, obviously.
Absolutely, yeah.
Joe Wicks did an amazing job, getting the whole country.
Totally.
It was just fantastic.
No, it is. And it was a weird time, but it was so funny when I read that this was your Joy Spotlight, because firstly, it's 5 years to the day today.
It is, isn't it?
That we went into lockdown, believe it or not. Not when this podcast episode comes out, by the way, everybody. When we recorded it, it's 5 years to the day. And I've been thinking a lot about this morning, because I read a post that said 5 years to the day, how has your life changed? And since 5 years to the day, my life has changed. I didn't have children at that point, and I had just had surgery in the January, the same surgery I'm due to have in 2 days' time. I was told we'd tried for lots of years to have children, and it wasn't working. We'd finally decided that my health was more important. There's a podcast episode coming out very soon that I speak about that with one of the guests. So when we went into lockdown, I was recovering. I'd recovered really well, so I was feeling great. I'm feeling better than, I think I'd had it in the January, and obviously that was then the March. But we planned, we were like, we're going to travel, we're going to this, and lots of our plans had to change because of lockdown, for the same as it did in everybody. And I know it was a really difficult time for lots and lots of people, but I do not know if I would have launched my business or had the view I had when I had children that lockdown gave, because it was the first time in my life that I slowed down and had space to think almost. So for the first few months we were working, and we were working long hours and we were working really hard, but we made sure we get outside every day. Obviously we had that glorious weather,
It's amazing.
the world
Summer
stopped
we've
and
ever had. It's like the world felt sorry for us, didn't it?
yeah, so we'll give them glorious weather. So we made sure we did have the dog. So we were out every day making sure the dog got his walk. One of the local golf courses let everyone just kind of walk on it because nobody was using it. So that was our kind of favourite spot. It was just so beautiful. And we were so lucky that, we weren't directly affected. And I know it was so, so, so hard. One of my aunties got really ill and that was really difficult. We were just in such a safe space. And thankfully she did recover as much as anybody did recover from COVID. But it was just, and I don't know if I would have looked at. I think it gave us a glimpse. People talk about glimmers. I think we were given a glimmer of what life could be if you made different choices. I think that's what, because I do believe it is all about choices. And when I started my business, it wasn't just this freedom business. I don't really kind of buy into that whole freedom business laptop lifestyle. But what I do buy into is choice, and choice is a freedom that we do have. So I think lockdown gave me that. And it was really interesting when you wrote that, because I thought it's quite a difficult thing to talk
Yeah,
about it in a positive sense.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
what
I was quite conscious that when I wrote that. I thought I should obviously be thinking of those that weren't as, like, say, I wasn't affected personally with anything too serious. Yeah, the way it changed the way I am now, because I'm still exercising now, and it's a healthy body, healthy mind thing, which is, and yeah, potentially, things did go quiet for me at the time. I was just mainly doing weddings, and weddings went like this.
yeah, of
So my
course.
business went like this. That's when I got more into, I suppose, graphic design for businesses as well. So it shaped, probably evolved my business quicker than it would have done, I think,
Hmm.
because I
Yeah.
had to adapt, had to change the sort of direction of the business, really. So, but yeah, obviously, I'm conscious of those that weren't so fortunate, as been affected
Hmm.
a lot more. But just I suppose, the chain of events that led for me
Exactly.
on that.
Yeah, and that was it. And then I was pregnant by the May. But I do not know if I had the surgery and gone back to work and worked, would it have happened?
Yeah, potentially.
Who knows?
Your body made you relax maybe a little bit.
Exactly. I think there was definitely, and I was healthier. It wasn't just about, because I know people in the infertility world hate when you say just relax, because it's not about that. But I do think I was healthier. I was walking. I was cooking for myself 3 times a day. I mean, when I was working, I was doing 80 hours a week. I would eat when I felt like eating. I was
Food.
generally quite healthy, but sometimes there was bad choices and bad decisions, and definitely bad times of days
Yeah,
to eat,
yeah, yeah.
and surviving off of coffee and Diet Coke. So yeah, so definitely just that healthiness, but also just realizing that, like, life can look a bit differently. And like you said, I had more energy, I had more space to think, and it was just like, right, okay, if I'm going to learn anything from this time and not go back, this is what I need to learn. And then I think once I'd had my first daughter, and then was lucky enough to fall pregnant really quickly. By the time I was then going back to work, I was just like, right, this is really lucky. So we need to take the signs. It doesn't mean I get it right all the time. I still, I think once a workaholic, always a workaholic. But
Yeah,
I thought I'm still going to make a choice of what life is going to look
yeah,
like for us. And I think that was from lockdown.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. People's lives probably changed massively. If that hadn't
Hmm.
happened, then who knows what direction it.
Well, you'd still just be in the same hamster wheel, I think, for something like you say. You need that catalyst to happen. Unfortunately, it took me till this time last year to really get on the exercise. Like you say, I've dabbled on and off. I've been to gyms, I've done yoga, but nothing's just stuck. And then I found my thing a year ago, and the days fell off the bit of the bandwagon this year, health wise.
Yeah,
But the difference I feel
yeah. The day.
when I'm doing it,
Yeah,
and the energy. And you said it, healthy body, healthy mind, and that is so, so, so important. And I know that doing what I'm doing has changed me because I can't wait to get well to start doing it again. Whereas before it'd been great that I had an
Yeah.
excuse not to do the things. Whereas this time I'm like, I know how good that makes me feel. So I know that's now going to be part of my recovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is exciting and different for me
Yeah. And it's
to have that.
yeah.
Exactly, because my body's just in a whole different place.
It was. Yeah.
Definitely after two children as well anyway, but yeah, my body's in a whole different place, and the strength that it has, even though it's got these massive weaknesses just now, it's just different because of the exercise. What's the She Collective that I do, and it's brilliant. Brilliant. Ro has been on here. You can go and find her in the podcast episodes. Okay, so the second question is inspired by joy, which is it can be a mentor, person, or sometimes it's a book for people that kind of inspired them and it changed them in some way.
Yeah, I think it's got to be my mum. She passed away unfortunately 6 years ago. She was only 71, which to me was just way too early. You know, she should have had another
No age.
10, 15 years with us. So yeah, it was cancer. Yeah, but growing up, I mean, she was a worker. I mean, at the time, back in there, I mean, I'm 50 now, just turned 50. So if this was what, late 70s, early 80s, a lot of the mums didn't go back to work. You know, they stayed at home. They were stay-at-home mums. My mum did. She went back, not full time. She would, dad would come in from work, sort of 4:30, 5:00, have his tea on the table ready, and she'd be out to work. She would work sort of 5 hours every evening at the hospital cleaning, just to be able to, bring more money in so that we could afford family holidays and things like that, which, yeah, she lived for the sunshine. She loved the sun. So, yeah, we were quite, I suppose, from about the age of 10, 11, we were going on families holidays abroad, which not many of my friends were. But
No, it was unheard of in
yeah,
those times.
different to nowadays. So she wanted to be able to do that, and yeah, just that work ethic, I suppose, and how hard she worked, even though we could have managed, I suppose, without her going out to work. But she just wanted to do that for the family, which is a huge thing, really. Which I think maybe is where maybe I get my sort of work ethic from as well. That's showing my girls. I've got two girls now, and teenagers, and just wanting to show them that if you work hard, and I mean, I'm just going through a divorce at the moment, but I didn't have to when we were sort of obviously bringing the children up. I didn't really have to go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
Showing them that if you've got something that you've got a passion for, or something that you want to help people with, or just that work ethic, and sort of came from my mum. I think it really has shaped how I see the world of work, and how I wanted our family, and how I wanted the girls to see me.
Mm-hmm.
So and she also let me follow my dream as well. So when I was 18, I went off to university, and I went a long way, 4 hours from home. And we were very close as a family. And she obviously let me do that. She wasn't going to stop me. She knew I had dreams, aspirations, and really wanted me to follow those. Which again, I'll pass on to my girls as well. Them to whatever they want to do, I'll support them 100%. So it's I suppose it follows, doesn't it? The way she or
Absolutely.
I want.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, I can see how it's.
And again, when I read it, I feel exactly the same because, like you say, so I was 80s, and my mum would probably say that she gave up her career when she had kids, and but she always was working something.
Yeah.
Until my dad took a job that changed our whole life forever. We moved to England, and income levels changed, and he became like a real successful self-made man. But up until that point, there was times that my mum had to work because my dad wasn't working, and then, like you said, there was times that he'd come in and my mum would go out. And I remember working in petrol stations and factories and all these things, but there was always the goal and the purpose of whether it was something at that time, or my dad wasn't bringing in enough money, or he wasn't working at that point, or we were in working class Glasgow, so it was a very different space to where my dad then took us to. So, but the one thing that has came through my whole life, and even when mum stopped working, when she'll probably shout at me that I'm getting the timelines all wrong, but I think she probably stopped working a year or two before we moved to England, and then when we did move, she didn't work. But by that point, my dad needed that support unit at home. So even though it was then throughout my teenage years that mum was the one that was at home and dad was working and he was traveling and all sorts and working ridiculous hours, but I saw the strength that my mum needed to have to keep us together as a family, to make sure that he had what he needed in the support unit that he needed. I remember her having to go to like events and things with him and be that, the wife there supporting, and she would also support the other wives. And I just saw this strength all of the time. And I think when I look at that now and when I read your story, I was like, it is that you are being shown. And she did also make it very clear to us, like the funny things of always make sure you have your own bank account. Always make sure you have money. It was almost like the runaway money. Don't know what we were going to be running away from, but always just have that say, and this was coming from my mum and dad have been together since they were teenagers. So this was coming from somebody who had stayed and married and gone through the ups and downs and everything in between. So this is still somebody who never left and never did any of that. But she was like, you just make sure that you stand on your own 2 feet and you just make sure that you're doing this. And every time we were given our opportunities, she was our biggest supporter.
Yes.
She's still proper tough love, like she is like tough, but you know that she's got it's that unconditional love, but you'll still get in trouble if you do something. And it was funny because somebody was talking about heroes the other day, and I commented on the post and said I absolutely love this. And then they said to me, Dolly Parton and Tina Turner are my heroes. Who are yours? And I said, well, Dolly Parton's up there because I think again it's that strong woman, but quietly just does her thing, doesn't need to shout about it. She's just Dolly and gets. I said, definitely Dolly Parton, but my mum,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's that. But then I made the joke that, if I'd ever did anything wrong, that the police needed to be involved, my mum would be the person that would make the phone call to the police to make sure that I get that kind of, but then no, she'd support you through it.
Yeah.
Like you'd never be left.
No.
So yeah, that really resonated me with when you wrote about your mum.
Yeah, and I think because I've got two daughters the same as you. I think you then just want them to look up to you the same way you look up to your mum, don't you? So yeah, I've done the set. I suppose my older daughter was due to go to university in September, but decided last minute she wasn't going to go. And at first I was quite upset, not through sort of the educational side of it, or she wasn't going to get a degree, purely through her happiness, because I think it would have helped her massively with sort of social skills and making friends and things like that, because she's quite shy. But that was the first thing I thought of, was it's going to be harder for her to stay here because all her friends are going away to uni. So but yeah, it was nothing to do with the education side of it. It was purely for her confidence and her skills and the way she could have developed for that. But then I thought, I've got to support her, whatever she wants to do. Either way, I'll support her 100%. So yeah, she has stayed, she's got a job, and yeah, she's doing fine. So they'll find their way, whichever way they go, won't they? But yeah, I knew that the way my mum did, she supported me in what I wanted to do, even though she would have loved me to have stayed at home and not be 4 hours away, in a car. She supported me 100% and knew I had to do it. And you find your way, don't you?
That's it. You look and it wasn't until I became a mum that I look back on times and think, that must have been so hard for my mum when I did that. Yeah, I love that. I really, really, really love that. I was very moved when I read that. But let's change the topic a little bit and go on to your joy killers, the thing that you want to remove from the world.
Yeah, I've got a couple really. One's sort of a bit more light-hearted or jokey, I suppose, which is slow walkers. I'm a really quick walker. I think I always have been, but I mean, I see it. Obviously, I'm quite into health and fitness and keeping healthy. Whenever I go anywhere, I see it as an opportunity for exercise. So if I'm my Apple Watch, obviously I've got to get my steps up and my 30 minutes a day. So if I've not done my Joe Wicks in the morning or a run or something like that, and even if I'm just out shopping, I'm walking somewhere, I've got to do it quick so that it gets my steps up.
Well, I'm always just like, I don't understand why anybody doesn't want to get from A to B as quickly as you possibly can. We're busy. I mean, so it's always that, yeah, when I read this, I laughed because I can just get the frustration. And when you walk on the street and you're like that, trying to get past the people.
Yeah, and the supermarket's the worst, with a trolley. And
yeah.
So yeah, that was my older daughter's the same. She gets really frustrated now if we're shopping, and you can't get past her.
Well, there was something I inherited from my mum that she inherited from her mum, that it was like, and my gran was tiny. like tiny wee Scottish woman, and she would just scuttle everywhere that she went because, like you say, she was busy. She had a million and one things to do, so you just had to get to the place you were getting to. So yeah, we all joke that my mum now has got that, but we're all the same. We all walk
I
fast.
suppose there are times when you will need to slow up, if you're going out just on a Sunday stroll or that sort of thing, and by the river, on a day-to-day basis, if you're just out shopping or just.
It's so frustrating. But you know the thing that gets me when it is about like slow walkers or drivers not paying attention or things like that is I just don't understand people's awareness and perception of those around me. Like if I do choose to slow walk or if I'm with the kids and they're playing up so I've had to stop, you know people around you, you move over to the side and you let everybody just go about their day.
Yeah.
I just don't get the awareness of some people that they don't
No idea what's going on.
understand, or even the random, we've all done it where we've been walking in like a busy shopping centre and then you suddenly go, I need to go, and you suddenly change direction, you've gone right into somebody else's footpath and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. But the people that just do it and get no awareness they're causing chaos behind
No,
them,
they've got no
yeah,
peripheral vision on, like say, no awareness. So
yeah, drives me insane.
yes, yeah, but I suppose on a more serious note, I would probably ban just negativity in general. I'm quite a positive, or try to be a positive person. And again, that's for my girls. I don't want them to be negative or to see me negative. Really, obviously, there are times when I get down, or not quite so positive. But
That's human nature.
yeah, you're never going to get away from that 100%. But I always try. I think I'm a glass half full rather than half empty person. So always try and look on the positive side or the bright side. I think once one of my younger daughters said, "Why are you always so positive?"
Stop being positive, mummy, just come back to me and be negative for a wee while.
Surely that's a compliment.
Yeah.
Which is it? But yeah, I think, I know that obviously there are things you can get down about, and I've been going through a separation and divorce this last year, so there have been times when it's been really hard. But
Really
you've got
hard.
to look on, the brighter side and what happier times could be ahead, and look to the future. So I'm saying to ban it, you can't ban it obviously completely, but just to try and always put a positive spin on something. If you've got in your head that, even about your business, like if you're thinking negatively or imposter syndrome, which I get a lot, and we all do, whatever stage we're at in business, just try and flip it round and think of the positives that you've brought to people, or reread all your testimonials and the things that people have said about your service. And so that's a good one. I've got a whole folder where I store my testimonials, and if I am feeling a bit negative or had a bad week, if you just reread some of those, it's amazing how it just perks your mood up and just gives you that confidence again, I suppose. Think, yeah, I can do this, I can do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can always, and again, that's probably come from my healthy body, healthy mind thing. I don't think I've always been like that. It's definitely better on days when I'm a lot more active, or I've done my gym with my ex morning. Yeah, just having that positive spin if you suddenly see yourself smiling.
I think it's so important, and I think that people don't understand it's actually, like you said, healthy body, healthy mind, but it's actually a muscle that you can practice with and teach, because the joke in our house is like my partner Ash is like Mr. Go Lucky. Like he is so laid back and he's definitely glass half full. Like he'll see the good in everything, to the point that I've probably gone to the total opposite end of the spectrum, and that I'll be like, but this could happen, and this could happen, and this could happen. He's like, but also it could not, Diane. And that's literally how our conversations go. I naturally sit in the glass half empty category. I'll always give everything a beginning, a middle, and end, and I'll thingy. But I have learned and taught myself, and through experiences, and reminded myself, and it's that thing, like I always say, as you know, you're in my world, so you know the things that I talk about. But and people say to me, but you're so confident. I'm like, I'm not. I just use courage to get me where I want to go. I just know that if I want to do X, Y, or Z, I have to show up. So I use my courage to get there. And then confidence is learned through the experiences of, oh, that didn't quite go as bad as you thought it was going to. Did it now, Diane? You can actually now show up again and do those things. And I think you can learn, if you're a very negative person, which I can be, believe it or not, even though joy is all over everything that I do. But that was a very conscious decision,
Yeah, which is what you bring
because
into your world, I think. But
yeah,
positive. It's a positive.
yeah. So that's like, I will literally force myself every day to talk about joy, because that's what I want. I've made a choice that I can be this little negative Nancy. Sorry to anybody who's called Nancy. It just rhymes. I can be that, or I can decide that I choose joy and I will work as hard as I can to bring that into my life. And that's what it's that thing of building the life you want to build. And I go into negativity every single day. There's times that, and I've got tools, I've got a wee toolbox that I go into. And like you said, that reading your testimonials is brilliant. I've got songs I will listen to, I've got affirmations I will do. That at the end of the day that I'll write the things I have done, not concentrate on the things that I haven't done, because guess what? They can get done another day.
Yeah.
But look at what you have done, what you have accomplished. And those are the tools that change it, that change the trajectory and make sure that I am in a different mood when I pick my girls up from nursery, and I am in a different mood. And like you said, there is tough times, there is tough situations, there is things that are going to get you down, but you can choose to look at it in a couple of ways. You can also allow yourself to sit with that for a while.
Yeah, you need.
And allow yourself to be
Yeah,
upset.
yeah. I have cried, obviously, a lot, but
Uh,
you can't dwell on that. You can't live in that zone forever.
no,
You've got to come out of it and spin it round to think of the positives and how it.
but it doesn't need to define you.
No.
That's, me being slightly more negative, a little bit melancholic sometimes, doesn't need to define me. It's just one little part of me. And then there's whole other parts that love joy, that love pink,
Yeah,
that love sparkly things, but that's not necessarily, as I say, it's not what my joy is about. My joy is about my life and my choices and
yeah,
being myself.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
kind of what is. But yes, thank goodness we have glass half full people
Yes.
like you and Ash, though, because you definitely make the world go round a little bit more than us negative
It
noonies
would
do.
be boring if we were all the same, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. But if anyone thinks they're a negative person out there, you can work on it. You can work on not being as negative. It is a choice of how you decide.
Yeah.
It's like there's lots of people out there that say, I wake up today and I choose to be happy.
And sometimes it's
And
a hard choice. Sometimes it's hard to make that choice, isn't it? To make that decision, make that positive mindset, come to the forefront, but it can be done. It's just, you got to dig deep sometimes, haven't you?
absolutely, absolutely. Some days definitely deep, deep, deep. Okay, if people want to come and connect with you, find you, see what you do, know more about you, where can they come and do that?
Various places. I've got my website, which is thebranddesignboutique.co.uk. Instagram and Facebook are the same, so at the Brand Design Boutique. Yeah, they're the main places. I'm on LinkedIn as well, Nicky Fish. So yeah, they're the main places to find me, really.
Amazing. All the links will be in the show notes, including the free guide for the brand breakthrough if you're interested in that. Okay, don't let anybody go without the last question being answered, which is, what is the joy legacy that you would like to leave behind?
I think what I said before, really, about the positivity, just having that positive outlook on life and striving. We only get one life, we get one chance to live it. So you've got to have that positive sort of aspect and banish those negative thoughts if you can. It is hard. It really is hard some days, but yeah, having this year has definitely taught me that. But it can be done. And if you have got children, then think of those and how they're going to see you and what we've said about our mums and how we've learnt from them. And even if you haven't, you're thinking of the others, people that are around you, your family, your friends, your loved ones, and what sort of an effect it can have on them. If you are sort of maybe feeling down, and just think how they can help you if you are struggling as well. Just go to them for support, and just try and turn it around as quickly as you can, just for your own sanity and your own mental health as well as those around you.
Exactly. Positivity goes a long way.
Definitely.
Goes a long, long way. It really, really does. Thank you so much, Nicky. You've been so generous. I've loved the stories so much that I personally resonated with, as I said, with all of your joy questions too. And I definitely suggest everyone goes and checks out your brand design boutique, because it's truly beautiful, the work that you come up with. And we have seen firsthand the difference that you can make within the people within our own communities. So thank you so much for joining me today.
No, thanks ever so much, Diane. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Nicky as much as I did. And I hope it's brought you inspiration that the path doesn't always need to be straight, that there are different ways to find your passion. But when you find your passion and your joy, it's taking the opportunity to run with it, to run towards it and make everything out of it that you can. So I want to leave you with my 3 top takeaways from the conversation that I had with Nicky. that branding is more than just visuals. It's about that connection with your audience, with your customer, with your clients, and how they see your brand. A strong brand isn't just about being pretty. It's about making your audience feel something and ensuring that your business is instantly recognizable for the right reasons. Two, to never stop learning. Whether it's new design trends, tech advancements like AI, or simply deepening your understanding of what your clients really need, growth is key to staying ahead in business. And to grow, you have to continue to learn. We cannot rest on our laurels and think that we already know it all. There is always something to learn. And when you're learning, you are growing. And lastly, that resilience and positivity go a long way. Entrepreneurship, as life, is full of ups and downs, but how you handle them determines your long-term success. And Nicky's positivity is something that stays with me, and something when I talk about reboundability, when I talk about resilience, when I talk about being able to continue with your life and your business, regardless of how many times it tries and knocks you down, Nicky does often come to mind. That staying adaptable, embracing challenges, and keeping a positive mindset can make all of the difference. If this episode resonated with you, I would love you to go and like and share it with somebody who you think needs to hear this story. And if there's anything that I'm ever going to ask you, it's going to be that you come and subscribe to the podcast. It helps other business owners find us. It helps me keep doing this, and it helps the Joy Work Show grow our audience. And I am be forever grateful if you just come and give us a wee subscribe. And if you want to get to know your dream client that little bit better, if you want to grow and learn and understand how you can serve your clients a little bit better, you can go and take my free dream client quiz. The link is in the show notes. It doesn't cost you anything at all. You'll answer 10 questions and it will give you your dream client messaging, motivations, how they like to interact with businesses, what they like, what their dislikes are, and it might just give you that inspiration that you have been looking for. But until next time, stay bold, stay creative, and keep building a business that lights